U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing a Black Lives Matter protester in 2020.
A new hearing set for the Luther Hotel on whether to make its contract public.
And flooding from today's rain seen in some areas in the Crossroads.
And we're likely to see even more flooding this weekend, folks. We're going to take a little break between Thursday and Friday, but then the whole thing comes back on Friday night into Saturday, and we're looking for more significant rainfall. I'll have the latest details for you coming up in a moment.
And we check out highlights from a win-or-go-home game tonight between Shiner and Refugio. That one was exciting, but for different reasons. That's coming up in sport.
You're watching 25 News Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Karina Garcia. New at 10, police are investigating an attempted robbery near 1707 Azalea Street. The suspect tried to rob an apartment building but fled the scene on foot after a witness called police. The suspect was last seen wearing a white shirt, blue jeans, and is said to have short dreadlocks. More information will be available on crossroadstoday.com as this story develops. The U.S. Army sergeant who was found guilty of shooting and killing a Black Lives Matter protester in Austin in 2020 was sentenced today. A judge handed down the 25-year term to Daniel Perry. Perry was convicted last month of murdering Air Force veteran and protester Garrett Foster.
It's now my job to pronounce sentence in this case. And Mr. Perry, can you please rise? And after careful and thoughtful and thorough consideration by this court of all the evidence presented by both parties in the guilt, innocence, and in the punishment stage of this trial, certainly to include the devastating impact by this tragic incident upon all those personally affected, this court sentences you to a term of 25 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You will receive credit for whatever time you've previously been in custody. That concludes these proceedings.
Governor Abbott already announced he would approve a pardon if a request was sent to him. The Texas Board of Pardons and Parole is currently reviewing Perry's case.
This brings us to your viewer poll tonight. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Here's the question. Do you think the 25 years for Daniel Perry is an appropriate punishment? Yes, no longer, no shorter, or he should be pardoned. Let's look at the numbers. Yes, 11%. No should be longer, 43%. No should be shorter, 1%. And he should be pardoned, 45%. Close vote there. We thank you for voting. We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. A new survey shows Victoria is the 155th most expensive city in Texas for household expenses. Doxo Insight survey shows Victoria households spend 37% of their income on household bills. The average Victoria household spends just over $1,000 per month on rent and $412 on utilities. Here are the current river flood warnings posted for the Crossroads from the National Weather Service. In Victoria and Goliad counties, a river flood warning in effect until early Friday morning for Coletto Creek at the Arnold Road crossing. In Goliad County, a river flood warning in effect until late Thursday morning for the San Antonio River at Highway 72 near Runge.
In Victoria County, a river flood warning goes into effect this evening until early Saturday morning for the Guadalupe River at Victoria. In Victoria and Calhoun counties, a river flood warning goes into effect this evening until further notice for the Guadalupe River near Bloomington.
In Jackson County, a river flood warning goes into effect late tonight until late Friday evening for the Lavaca River near Edna. And in Jackson County, a river flood warning goes into effect Thursday evening until Saturday afternoon for the Navidad River at Strain Park. The City of Victoria closing parts of Riverside Park as the Guadalupe River rises. The boat ramp, Fox's Bend and Grover's Bend closed to vehicle and pedestrian traffic. All other areas of the park are expected to remain open. The closed areas of the park are expected to reopen late Friday.
The rainfall in Calhoun County has reached 4 inches in some areas of the county. The Port Lavaca Wave reports the south side of Port Lavaca near Chocolate Bayou received between 3 to 4 inches of rain this morning. Several areas had flooding, such as this area near George and Ann Streets.
So let's take a first look at your forecast with First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez. Mac, we didn't have a lot of rain today, at least in Victoria.
At least in Victoria, yeah.
But there were some areas that in the crossroads that got a whole bunch of rain.
Oh, yeah. Well, the irony of it all is last night when the city was dry, Cuero and Nordheim were just getting pummeled by some tremendous rainfall. Folks, the storm that brought us last night's rain is now gone. It's up here in East Texas. You can see Austin, Houston, and we are actually going to see a little bit of sun tomorrow. And that's good. We get a break, much needed break, because Friday night into Saturday, we've got a big rainstorm coming in, and it's going to be significant. So we'll be talking about that coming up in just a moment.
Mac, thank you. An historic hotel in the Crossroads, at risk of being demolished, has a hearing set for Thursday. The hearing for the Luther Hotel in Palacios will be on Judge Polly Spencer's YouTube channel at 2 o'clock p.m. That has been updated. The hearing will include the judge ruling on whether or not to make the contract public between the Rochal Foundation, the group that owns the Luther Hotel, and the estate. Come to crossroadstoday.com to find a link to tomorrow's hearing.
Investigators in the deadly Allen Mall shooting have released new details.
Authorities say the gunman, Mauricio Garcia, had 3 guns on him during the massacre. 5 more guns were found in his car, all bought legally.
Today, more pain, grief, and flowers at the memorial for the victims at Allen Premium Outlet Mall near Dallas. New crosses show the names of the 8 victims shot and killed. Some people knew the youngest victim, 3-year-old James Cho. Trinity Whitley was his daycare teacher.
He was sweet and smart, and every day we're gonna miss him.
His parents also murdered in the attack. Investigators say Mauricio Garcia brought 8 firearms with him when he unleashed chaos Saturday before being shot and killed by a lone police officer. Authorities say the 3 weapons on Garcia's body and the 5 found in his car were legally purchased. Detectives right now focusing on the shooter's motive, reviewing the 33-year-old former security guard's social media profile, which investigators say includes racist, white supremacist views.
We are trying to get into his computer and on social media and find out, whether he had anything that he'd publicized or been out.
Images uploaded to an account last month suggest the gunman may have visited the outlet mall multiple times over the past year.
To me, it looks like he targeted the location rather than a specific group of people.
The Army says Garcia was removed from basic training in 2008 over mental health concerns, raising questions about his ability to legally purchase firearms.
When you have people with mental illness, if it turns out that this gentleman has that, when you have that situation, they will find a way.
Several victims remain in the hospital as people gather here for this community vigil tonight at 7. There will be a prayer service at a nearby Catholic church. Tim Pulliam, ABC News, Allen, Texas.
3 victims hurt in Saturday's deadly mass shooting at an outlet mall in Allen are recovering. Word from McKinney, 2 victims are in fair condition. 1 is in good condition. 1 victim still in critical condition. At Plano, another victim there listed in good condition. And at Medical City Children's Hospital, a child who was hurt is in good condition. 8 people were killed in the shooting, the nation's 2nd deadliest mass shooting this year.
More than 11,000 migrants were caught crossing the southern U.S. border Tuesday, surpassing the 10,000 estimated by the Biden administration. Migrants have flocked to the border before Title 42 is lifted tomorrow night. The White House directed Customs and Border Protection to start releasing migrants into the U.S. without court dates or the ability to track them. This new policy releases migrants on, quote, parole with a notice to report to Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
United States agents are urging migrants to turn themselves in to immigration authorities. They're bracing for a surge of migrants following the expiration of Title 41 tomorrow night. In El Paso, federal agents approached those living on sidewalks outside a church to ask them to visit a U.S. Customs and Border Enforcement Center for processing. Hundreds of migrants have already turned themselves in to immigration authorities on Tuesday before Title 42's expiration.
Here's some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave this week. In Port Lavaca, Daniel Aguirre won Port Lavaca City Council District 1 seat, and Justin Weaver won Calhoun Port Authority Board. Law enforcement made 24 weekly arrests in May, plus an agreement on a long-term harbor lease was approved during Seadrift City Council meeting. You can read these stories and more at theportlavacawave.com.
Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. The Justice Department has unsealed the charges against Representative George Santos.
Also ahead, nurses and healthcare professionals in California are calling for attention to address the nursing shortage crisis.
Department of Justice unsealed the indictment against freshman Congressman George Santos today. He was taken into custody and made an appearance in the federal court in Long Island, New York. The lawmaker faces 13 criminal charges, including fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and false statements. Some Republicans have reacted to the news of his charges. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said he would wait before calling on Santos to resign.
This is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself. We have an indictment. We have the information that the government wants to come after me on, and I'm going to comply. I've been complying throughout this entire process. I have no desire not to comply at this point. They've been gracious in there. Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt.
Santos has dismissed some of his statements, but has stood by other disproven claims. Santos pleaded not guilty to the charges claiming financial fraud. He was released on a $500,000 bond after his arraignment.
Pakistan's government has called out the military and provinces roiled by violence following the arrest of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The opposition leader was dragged from a courtroom and ordered held for another 8 days on new corruption charges. The current prime minister denounced the violence and approved the deployment of troops in Pakistan's capital and in the volatile northwest. The unrest has left at least 6 people dead. Khan was ousted in a no-confidence vote last year. Hundreds of healthcare professionals rallied at California's state capitol Tuesday.
Yeah, they are calling for the state to do more to address this nursing shortage crisis.
We need staff! Enough is enough!
They hit the streets. Hundreds who help us now asking for help themselves. Nurses say that they want $500 million in funding to help bring more people into the pipeline, get more nurses into hospitals.
It's not enough of us.
Latifa Kabir works at a hospital in the LA area, serving medical and surgical patients, including those with heart problems.
There is a burnout in all areas.
She says low staffing levels are impacting patient care.
For example, water sometimes is way down on the totem pole as a need. You know,
You have to address more critical needs.
more critical things, and it's just really sad.
And we try to help each other. We work as a team all of the time, but often you really feel torn as to I can't be here and there at the same time.
Jenny Wong Swanson, a nurse at Kaiser in Woodland Hills, says the pandemic sent healthcare in crisis mode. But as the world returned to a new normal, the number of nurses entering the profession flatlined. According to the union, 1/3 of the 3 million registered nurses in the United States will leave in the coming decade. And the United States healthcare system will be short 1 million nurses by 2030 unless we act now.
You don't have the instructors, you know, you don't have the funding from the states to bring in more students, bring in more staff to actually, you know, bring nursing students through the programs.
That's why unions are asking the governor and the legislature to invest $500 million in the next 5 years to double the capacity to graduate new nurses statewide. They're also lobbying for legislation to bring accountability to enforce nurse staffing ratios and to create a high school level course.
We need staff. Enough is enough.
They hope addressing what ails the healthcare industry here leads to an examination and a much needed shot in the arm financially to ensure a better future.
Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Cuero Record this week. Incumbent candidates Emil Garza and Bill Mathis retained their city council seats following the May 6th election. DeWitt County could see county taxable values increase. And journalist Coy Slavic brings 34 years of experience to the Cuero Record as its new publisher. You can read these stories and more at DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, folks, we're getting ready for a little break, but then the weekend is going to be a problem. This is Future Tracker. Through the next 5 days, we're looking at 3 to 5 more inches of rain, and that puts us in a serious flood situation. And it's Mother's Day weekend. We'll talk more about all this coming up in a moment. Stay tuned. Well, good evening, everybody. We had a nice little break coming up. The big storm that caused all the rain last night is now in East Texas. You can see how we lost all the rain. We started to thin out the cloud cover, and I think you'll actually see a little sun tomorrow and a much needed dry period. However, it is not over with just yet because we've got the second push of this multi-day rain event. Now, right now we're getting little pop-ups here and there. We may see a shower or two tomorrow, but it will not have the strength of any of what we saw last night. Last night, while we were sitting here talking at 10 o'clock, the city was not getting much, but look at what happened in Nordheim. 6 inches of rain. 4 inches of rain in Yoakum, 3 inches in Port Lavaca, 2 inches in Seadrift, and 2 in Edna. And now when you pile up another 4 or 5 inches of rain on that, well, that's going to put us in a flood situation. It goes without saying. Now, these are the rivers. Of course, the San Antonio River through Goliad is in flood stage. And of course, the Guadalupe River through our area is in flood stage. We also have many of the minor rivers, like the Navidad is also in a flood warning. So these are only going to get worse because of the impending rainfall that we're going to get. These were crested or predicted to crest on Friday, and then they were going to drop the warnings. Well, that ain't going to happen, and because when we get to Saturday, we're going to be getting an absolute downpour. Now, what is happening? Well, here's the low that caused the recent rain. That's moving away. Then we have the dry line out there, which is going to merge with that cold front, and then that cold front is going to merge with a deep area of low pressure on the west coast. And then you see this huge bloom of thunder showers over all of Texas. I'm talking, you know, from Amarillo down to the valley. This is going to be a very interesting weather pattern. Now, normally we get what we call the jet stream, which is a persistent flow of air across North America. But when we get a dip this deep, which is forecast, it's going to pull up tons of moisture from the south and pull it even north. And we're going to get this problem here. So what I'm telling you now is that you got to get ready for a big rain event this weekend. If you have property or a truck or a tractor or dogs or cats or cattle down there, you just need to know that the rivers are going to be hard to get around because it's not only muddy already, but we're looking at 3 to 5 more inches of rain. Unbelievable. Now here's your 3 o'clock Thursday, and you can see that as we get to Friday, it's a little bit of a break, right? Then we go from that to Saturday, and boom, that big plume of moisture and rain goes up and down the entire state. Now, I know you're driving to go see Mom. I'm driving to go see, you know, the family and get everybody together, but we're going to be dealing with this as well. And then we go to Sunday, and still we've got rain down in deep South Texas. And then we go to Monday, and we still got rain. That's 3 days of rainfall coming up beginning on Saturday. So I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you. You just need to know this is going to happen. Very likely we'll see a rather soggy weekend and then early part of next week. And by Monday, we're going to be dealing with floodwaters. I'm telling you right now. 73 will be our low. The shower chance continues to drop off. Tomorrow, we'll see a few little pop-up showers get up to 88 because we'll have less cloud cover and maybe a few rays of sun. And then the extended outlook gets complicated. A break on Thursday, half a break on Friday. Friday night, it starts again. You're going to see it come in from West Texas. And then Saturday, Sunday. So I have 3 alert days there. That means that everybody's going to be affected by the deluge that we're expecting this coming weekend. That is your 7-day forecast. Have a good evening, reminding everybody that we have our QR code. You scan that and you put Crossroads Today on your phone, and we'll be able to reach to you and get you any weather information necessary. And now, let's go to Gino in the sports department.
Thanks, Mac. A younger generation of gymnasts have a bunch of rivals. We hear them talk about that coming up after the break. At a crossroads, the Shiner Comanches and Refugio Bobcats faced off in our own backyard tonight, but really it was the Ryan Peterson show. Ryan had 8 strikeouts on the day. It looked like it was going to be a defensive battle, but with 2 outs, the Comanches went on a rally, and it was a conga line to home plate. Shiner would go on to score 4 runs in the second inning and then add 5 more in the third. The would-be game-winning run came in the bottom of the 4th. Refugio tried to get something going on offensive side of the ball of the plate, but it just would not happen. The coach could be seen talking to his players, trying to get them hyped up, but Sam Houston State commit Ryan Peterson finished the game with a strikeout to complete a perfect game. He would end the game with 8 strikeouts. Like I said, here's what he had to say about the final finish.
Just keep doing what I've been doing all game. Don't try and overthrow or put too much pressure on myself. Just go out there and keep throwing well and have a good outing.
This was not Ryan's first perfect game, but he collects the ball every time he does something special to commemorate the event. The Lady Comanches also won tonight, beating Ganado Maidens 10-4. The St. Joseph Lady Flyers are preparing for the state tournament after beating Fort Bend Christian Academy in Hallettsville. The Lady Flyers beat the Eagles in the TAPS Class 5A regional playoff game by a score of 5-3 after falling in a 3-1 hole. Thanks to Grim Singer base hit, she tied the game, and St. Joe went on to score 2 more runs in the 5th inning. Pitcher Abby Cantu got the win with 7 innings pitched and 10 strikeouts. The state semifinal game will be in Arlington at the University of Texas at Arlington. St. Joseph will take on a familiar foe in district opponent Austin Hyde Park in a one-and-done series on May 15th. The game will be at 7:30, and head coach Raul Chapa said the past 2 times these 2 teams have faced off in a series with the Panthers, it was a bunch of big hitting by the Panthers, and he hopes to limit that with pitching. Some younger gymnasts competed at the South Texas State Championships in Katy, and the team qualified 12 of the 15 eligible athletes, including 2 of the younger athletes, River Taylor and Rhett Branch. They both brought home silver medals and finished in the top 10 in every event they competed in. Both Taylor and River are continuing to work at the gym and bring home the gold at nationals, hopefully, and they do have rivals, even though they are less than 11 years old.
One of my goals is to beat a girl that she won, and I just want to, and she won it first overall at state, and I just want to win first overall against her. I hope to do good. There's this one kid that's really good. He's gotten first on every single one, trying to beat him. He qualified for every single one.
When I first heard this, honestly, I was a bit shocked, but you know, it made me respect these athletes and look at them in a different light even more. Well, that's your sports. Don and Karina, back to you.
Thanks, Gino. Now stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, we'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a food bank in Denver helps out migrants as the city rushes to find space. With Title 42 expiring tomorrow night, cities like Denver are getting ready for an increase in migrant arrivals. Denver's mayor plans to reactivate the city's emergency operations center to deal with an influx of migrants already overwhelming nonprofit partners. Hundreds of migrants have come into the city for intake processing, shelter, and food, which has prompted a variety of local groups to organize efforts to provide shelter and bring food supplies to a migrant intake center.
A number of folks were coming into Denver from places like Venezuela or Ecuador. We made sure to have foods like tortillas, salsa, fresh fruits and vegetables, milk on hand, so that people not only were able to get the food assistance they need, but actually have foods that are familiar to them.
Homeland Security leaders predicted 10,000 migrants will try to cross into the U.S. per day after Title 42 lifts. However, the numbers have already surpassed that, with 11,000 apprehended Tuesday.
SpaceX launched another set of Starlink satellites into orbit. The 51 satellites launched on board a Falcon 9 rocket, taking off from a Space Force base in California. The successful launch was followed by another successful landing of the first stage rocket on a floating drone ship platform. SpaceX currently has more than 3,900 functioning Starlink satellites in space. We just got late word from the National Weather Service, a new river flood warning for Victoria, Calhoun, and Goliad counties. San Antonio River at Goliad from Thursday to Friday evening. Mac, we're up to 7 now river flood warnings in the crossroads.
And I think we'll extend those till Monday of next week. So
oh, wow.
We've got a little break in the stormy action. Tomorrow, generally a dry day, just a sprinkle or two possible. But Friday night, you're going to be watching a huge line of storms coming in from the south and west. And so I believe that Saturday, Sunday, Monday are going to be 3 days of biblical rainfall.
Oh boy.
How about that? Okay, ridiculous amounts of rain that we need to get ready for now before the storm arrives.
All right, Mac, thank you. And finally tonight, the International African American Museum, set to open in Charleston, South Carolina next month, is the recipient of the One South Carolina Award. The Riley Institute at Furman University presented the award in Columbia this morning. The award recognizes a landmark achievement that contributes to social and economic progress in the Palmetto State. The museum's Learning and Engagement Officer said this award confirms the museum's mission.
That the work that we're doing to endeavor to take on, yes, difficult topics, difficult conversations, in many ways difficult history, really is going to lead to what it is that we're hoping, and that is better conversations, a better understanding between communities, because at the end of the day, we really are one community.
She said Charleston was the most prolific port for slave trade in North America. She said it's estimated at least one ancestor in every African American's family who has historical ties to the U.S. would have passed through the Charleston port. Wow. The International African American Museum opens on June 27th. I got to tell you, a few years ago, my wife and I went to Charleston. One of the most amazing cities that you will ever visit. A tremendous city. Shrimp and grits everywhere. Shrimp and grits. Have fun, and you enjoy Charleston.
Well, I'll write it down for when I visit
Please
Charleston.
do, yes.
Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us for 25 News Now at 10. Remember, we're streaming 24/7 on Crossroads Today Plus.
Join Carolina Astroin and meteorologist Trey Mining. 25 News Now Sunrise starting at 5 a.m. Good night, everybody.